Hello everyone, nice to meet you once again. I'm Kudłaty and this is Furion.
Hi.
I would like to thank you from the very beginning from your subscriptions of our YouTube channel. Due to your subscriptions, we afforded this beautiful screen in one beautiful city. If you would like to see us in your town, please write it in a comment.
Okay, so in last video we make a breakdown of how to make ETC restrictions, how to choose efficient people for the job, and the general jibba jabba.
And we tried to talk a bit about Warriors of Chaos and about their certain restrictions. However, today we would like to focus on one army. We choose the Dark Elves.
Yes, and we take this army under the microscope and we will do a total breakdown of those restrictions.
And what is the most important, we prepared ourselves before making this video.
We did? How?
Yes, we write this
Oh,
card.
we did! Yeah, actually, very handy.
Prepared.
Okay, and one more thing, the blanket is actually the same, so you can still see those beautiful stars and moons.
The bad moon. Yes, it's actually not yellow, but we will talk about it.
It's like Morsiep and Mansiep, right?
Something like that.
Okay.
Never mind. Okay, we would like to talk generally about the Dark Elf restrictions. We would talk one to another about how do we feel about the certain restrictions and what we would like to change if we would have the opportunity to change them.
Yes, so not only we have prepared what is not working or broken in the current restrictions, but we also have a ready solution, which perhaps is not a finished product.
Yes,
but you can
those
start
solutions
from
are
here.
better or worse, but there are some solutions that are going with our way of thinking about the restrictions.
Yeah, generally this is how we look at the balance and how generally restrictions should look
We've got our priorities. Let's start with them. We would like to get these restrictions easier, more friendly to read.
Yes, definitely.
We would like to make the armies getting a reasonable amount of points, around 10, but with similar varieties, not 20-0-0-20, but every army should be able to face every army.
Yes, we generally want to avoid polarized matchups that you come to the table, bring out your miniatures, and auto-lose or auto-win. This is totally not our point.
Yes. And we would like to mainly avoid writing restrictions that are based only on our fears, not by some studies of what really happened in the last years or during the test battles.
Exactly.
If some restrictions is blank, we would like to avoid it. And if the tests really will show in the future that it was really needed, we would like to come back, because we think that in Dark Elf there are few restrictions that are there just because some missed experiments.
Yes. Most of the restrictions in Darkest Army actually cut the air. They either don't hit what they are supposed to hit, or hit it too hard by cutting off any other builds, which could you do in units in those brackets, which we'll get to in a minute. Okay, so
first of all, we are writing these restrictions. We assumed that the Dark Elf army is a bit overpowered due to the other armies. We assume that it's around 5%, 4-5%. So to make the correct on it, we gave Dark Elf the minus 100 points in the beginning, and with these assumptions we are going through whole the restriction process.
It is important to remember that all the other restrictions which we present you have like this synergy with the 100 points.
You have to notice that it means that you don't have 600 points on each choice, but you've got only 575, which changes some builds.
And in some cases changes them rather significantly. For example, you can't fit like 2 sorcerers, or you can't max out your hero choices as you would like, but you will come back to it.
Yes, and you can have 5 points less in core choices, which is also important.
Yes. Okay, so
maybe let's start from the first. The first thing was 35 crossbows. It's the restrictions that is based on a thing that we would like to we would like to eliminate from the meta the army that is really effective in shooting and is built only on shooting models, like the core choice with X-bows, the shades, and the ballistas in the rare choice.
Exactly. And we decided to include just 35 crossbows because sometimes, well, generally, it is easier just to count how many of those crossbows do you actually field and know that chariots don't count and I have 2 of them, so that's 4 crossbows, blah, blah, blah. And the life taker. Does a life taker count or not? A question that comes every year.
Effectively, the life taker is only one choice, yes, because almost nobody takes crossbows that are not life takers on heroes. Life taker because it's only one life taker, so it doesn't make much difference. And counting the chariots doesn't really make much difference, because the chariots shoot because they don't march. So it's effectively an X-bow, yes, a crossbow. So it doesn't make much sense excluding them, and it makes this restriction much easier because you just count the X-bows in the list, and it's all you need. You don't have the promoted X-bows and non-promoted X-bows that really count to the limit.
Exactly. And with the limit of repeater crossbows, we come to a second restriction, or actually lack of a restriction.
Yes.
There was a restriction of shades are up to 20 models.
Yes.
Well, in ETC we have 33 countries, of which...
24 of them took Dark Elves, as we remember.
Yes, 24 took Dark Elves, 15 of them took shades, and only 5 of them took big units of shades, like close to max. Well, not maybe in one unit, but generally like 18, 19, 20 models.
Yes, there was an option of taking 3 units, so it was either the three minimal units,
one big, something
unit.
like that.
Yes, but what to count? Only 5 countries really did care about these restrictions.
Yes.
The rest of Dark Elf armies just omitted it. The thing is that if we would like to take shades, with a big amount of shades in our list, we have to count that we need to field something in our core choice.
And this comes to a restriction of 35 repeater crossbows. If you would like to max yourself on shades, you generally take less crossbowmen in core choices. Of course, Dark Elf warriors, they are good. No question here.
Yes, Dark Elf warriors are good, but we feel that while taking shades, you are forced not to take X-bows in a core choice, which are in most cases better than Dark Elf warriors and Corsairs.
And taking into account that in 8th edition, shades are actually a fireball magnet.
Yes. If you have got a first level fire wizard, he will get his fireball through the shades, through the battle, and he will get his point worth.
Yes, definitely. One fireball in on shades and he's already paid his points, so it's like the perfect target for this kind of spell.
16 points on one model. Rather worth it.
Okay, and of course we don't jump into polarized roster thing, because we have this overall limit of crossbows, so even if you take 20 shades or 30 shades, you still won't max your shooting to a level in which you automatically lose or automatically win some matchups.
Yes, it's affordable. They are ballistic skill 5, but they are easy to get the points from many strategies.
Okay, Harpies 02 in the original draft.
We believe it's a little bit too harsh.
Yeah, it's like, what's the utility of the third unit of Harpies, which second unit of Harpies doesn't have?
The thing is that having too many units of Harpies make abusive strategies. We believe that giving an army a third unit of Harpies doesn't mean that the list is abusive, and we feel that we can easily loosen this limitation. I think that the 4th limit, maybe the 5th, won't be the thing, but if we would like, for example, 10 units of Harpies, we can avoid combat through whole game.
Yes.
The same thing was with Dark Riders. We can make the abusive list taking like 10 units of Dark Riders. However, this is a toughness 3 model that is worth around 20 points, and it would be too easy to get points on him to restrict it.
Yes, exactly. And one important note, Harpies do not count towards minimum number of core units.
Yes.
So
Dark Elf is an army that in most roosters was having a really big amount of points in heroes and lords. They were almost always near the maximum.
yeah,
It means that you've got like 1,100 points in heroes and lords. In effect, when you sum up the lord points, the hero points, and the core points, there were only 700 points that were left on the units, which almost 200 points went on a Hydra. So you've got a really small amount of points
to manipulate
on this unit. If you take too many units of Harpies, you've got even less on other units.
Yes, so even if you take the third unit of Harpies, in our opinion, it's okay because it limits the other choices in the group of special.
We believe that we can loosen those limits and not make the lists abusive for other people to play.
While if someone wants to really field 3 units of Harpies, just let him. Well, there's no big deal. He doesn't break the game.
Maybe there would be the list that would be playing around a draw with 6 or 7 units of Dark Riders, the characters with maxed characters, the Hydra with something like that. But we don't feel it's a competitive list in comparison to other lists that the Dark Elves can field.
Yes, exactly. Okay, and another thing on the list, limit on flying characters.
The limit of flying characters generally blocks one thing. The list with a flying fighting lord and 2 Pegasus heroes. It was quite a popular list on the last RTC.
It was?
It was based on a dragon, a fighting Pegasus and a small wizard. The point is that such army is vulnerable to some tactics like death magic, for example, which was quite popular. And if we would count this army on these new restrictions that we are suggesting without those 100 points, it won't be more competitive. If this army was okay on the last draft, it will be okay on this year.
And please don't forget the synergy. In the beginning, we cut Dark Elves 100 points short. So you'll have special difficulties with maximizing this build. If you want to have a sorceress with a scroll, with 2 Pegasus Knights, or 2 Pegasus Knights.
You won't be able to field maximized hero's choice because you would be lacking those 25 points.
Yeah, if you don't believe us, just open the army book, check it for yourself.
The dragon fits. It's not a problem, but you would have problems with the
hero choices,
and you would be lacking those points in the rest of an army because it means 1 chart less. It's important in this list.
Yeah. Another thing on the list, Pendant of Khaeleth.
Yeah, there is a limit of Pendant of Khaeleth
on Supreme Sorceresses.
Generally on a lord choice or a model with a Crown of Command. The thing is that the only thing we already agreed to play with a noble with Pendant of Khaeleth. So the only thing we would really like is to limit the Dreadlord that's having a Pendant of Khaeleth, Crown of Command generally is unkillable.
The problem with Pendant of Khaeleth is that the item is so good that unless you make some extremely silly and heavy restrictions, every player will take it. So
it's simply a better version of Talisman of Preservation, which is cheaper. And it doesn't work against death magic, which is...
So, Pendant of Khaeleth is hit indirectly in our proposition of restrictions by cutting 100 points from a Dark Elf roster. This is, I think, a more significant hit than limiting its choice on a specific model. And
limiting it on a Dark Elf Sorcerer's Lord, because it's the only character that can have this and the Pendant of Khaeleth and is not a Dreadlord, it's not worth it. Because we think that if someone would like to play such a list, let him, but I think his team won't allow him to make this list on ETC.
I don't know. Maybe they will.
No, in Poland we won't allow it.
Won't we?
No, we won't.
Okay.
What else have we got?
So just to sum up, our proposition on Pendant of Khaeleth is cut all this long line and replace it with a simple pendant cannot be worn by a Dreadlord.
Yes. And that's it. That's all. No matter what else that Dreadlord has, if he won't have the Pendant of Khaeleth.
He may have like Crown of Command. Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, we think that if he would like to have a 1+ rollable save and Crown of Command, he can do it. It's not a thing. It's not a broken combo. A lot of armies can have a guy that is rerollable 1+ with Crown of Command, and it's a rare choice in the lists, as far as I see. The thing is that this combo of the hero with a good save and a Crown of Command is playable in most of the lists, and it doesn't hit a table because it's not worth it. The Dreadlord is nothing better in it.
Therefore, Darkless shouldn't get any special treatment for that. If such a combo doesn't exist in any other armies, is not seen on tables in other armies, and it's not seen on a Dark Elf army, then no need to restrict
We
it.
can omit it.
Okay, the rest restrictions are good ones. Actually, my favorite. Pendant of Khaeleth, Crown of Command, Cauldron of Blood, Hydra. Max 2 in total. When I build any roster for Dark Elves for any number of points, first I include the Hydra, second I include the character with Pendant of Khaeleth.
Or the opposite.
Or the opposite. It depends how you start your roster. If you start with characters, you first do Pendant and Hydra. If with units, first Hydra then Pendant. The point is that if we have any other choices in the same bracket, then those choices don't make it to the actual list.
Yes, it effectively makes Crown of Command and Cauldron of Blood banned from the list. The bracket is fine because you can have 2 Hydras if you won't take Pendant of Khaeleth, which is fine.
That's fine.
Because
that's fine.
it's a good trade in this list. However, I think that no one on a quite competitive level would exchange Hydra for a Crown of Command or for a Cauldron of Blood.
Yeah, or Pendant for Cauldron of Blood. Or...
Yeah, it's relevant.
And also keep in mind that with this additional 100 points loss, the Cauldron of Blood is hard to fit in the roster.
Yes.
So it's definitely no way to put him.
The build of 2 Pegasus and a Cauldron of Blood in a hero choice simply doesn't fit. If you would like to make them reasonable.
Okay, so we would just propose to leave Pendant of Khaeleth / Hydra max 2 in total. Let's let people take Cauldrons and
let people take Crown of Command.
No
if
problem.
it's not on Unkillable Lord with Pendant of Khaeleth,
yes, and it's not because it's Pendant of Khaeleth is not allowed.
I think it won't hit a table too often.
Yeah, pretty much it. Okay, Sacrifice of Dagger, Mage Lord, max 2 in total.
The thing is that the Sacrificial Dagger is the most effective if you cast a lot of spells from a wizard that is carrying it. It's obvious.
Yes, of course.
Because it allows us to cast with smaller number of dice and add additional dice after the roll, allowing us not only us to use these dice more effective.
Yes,
and
definitely.
avoid miscasting.
For example, if I have a spell on 7 or 8 plus, then I can simply take 1 die with my Supreme Sorceress. If I roll enough to meet the casting value, then it's great, and opponent is in deep trouble because he has to efficiently sacrifice, let's say, 2 dice for a 1 die spells. And if I don't hit the value, then no problem, I just kill a simple warrior, get another die, and most likely get the casting value.
Yeah.
So that's the secret power of Dagger, that it allows you to way better utilize those dice which you have.
Yes, it allows us to spam the spells simply.
So now let's take it into account that we have this great sorceress who gives us great tactical options with casting spells on 1 die, or let's say generally 1 dice less, and see how it goes. And then we have this second sorceress which doesn't have this benefit. She is significantly worse.
Yeah, the thing is that we would use her relatively less because she would cast only the game-breaking spells and the rest of the spells would be cast from a dagger. The effect is that the dagger is still good because 2 additional dice per turn is simply a very good solution for a Dark Elf army. However, we will have to take into account that we've got only not 600 points in a Lord choice, but 575, which means that if we would like to take 2 4th level wizards, we've got only points for a dagger, and 25 points which meet the points value of a dispel scroll, but the wizards cannot take any other equipment. In effect, those 25 points means, for example, that we won't make a list, when we won't give a wizard both the guiding eye and a dispel scroll, or for example, we won't be able to give her double null talismans, something like that.
So it's
We'll have to
options,
get
just limits
another compromise on the list.
assassins, rending stars, max 4 in total. So if I make a roster, I have to not only count how many assassins I take, but how many of them have rending stars.
The thing is that the rending stars are given only to assassins. Separating these two is a nonsense, because no one really plays the game on assassins in 8th edition without the rending stars, because the close combat power of the assassin is lower in this edition. It's too expensive for the thing that he does in close combat.
Yeah. Exactly.
So there are few solutions on this one. We can sum up the thing, making not this and this max 4 total, but this with this max 2 total. It's simpler. Or simply
just write max 2 assassins.
Yes, just assume that the non-rending stars assassin doesn't exist, and simply write max 2 assassins.
Okay, so now we have broke down a whole Dark Cavalry restrictions. Now you can see what the restrictions were like and what restrictions will be as we propose it.
Yes, we don't say that our restrictions are perfect. We just give you some view how we would like to make our propositions. Because we don't want only to say what is wrong, but we would have to give some constructive ideas how you can achieve our priorities while making such a restrictions.
So our restrictions are definitely shorter, easier to read, and actually all the limits that we have thrown up are just the limits that don't hit anything. Like the number of shades, the excessive lines on...
the thing is that if you would really like to max the army, you don't hit those limits. Because making really competitive lists avoid hitting those limits that were here. If there is a limit that doesn't block the strongest combinations, you have to think, is it really needed?
We hope that we managed to express our point of view to you quite precisely. We have told you what is, in our opinion, wrong in current restrictions. We have proposed an amendment, how to fix it, and it's easier to read. I think all agree with that. And in my opinion, they are more accurate. They more address the issue of the power level of the army than current restrictions.
Yes, there are some alternatives that you can think of.
Of course, if you have played 100 games with those restrictions, I bet they could be optimized. No question here.
Yes, this is a first draft of such an idea. Maybe we missed something, maybe we omitted a thing, but I think that it doesn't make a much difference to this what we are playing now on ETC. It's just a way of implementing the idea of minus 100 points to the actual reality of ETC.
Okay. And that will be it for this episode. Thank you very much for watching.
Thank you.
Yeah. And we'll cover all ETC stuff.
Maybe.
Okay, thanks. Bye.
La la. Boom.